Okay, this week we're reading two new stories. The first is Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway, and the second is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I'm going to start off with this video talking about Hills Like White Elephants first, and it's sort of got a spoiler, so I don't want you to watch this video until you've read the story. It's not all that long. You can find it in doc sharing. You can print it out, or you can just read it on the computer, and if the PDF is sort of tilted, you can just turn it on its side, and it should make it easier. I mostly want to address in this short video what the operation is. I don't know if any of you caught on to what it is. In the story, it's not identified as anything particular, so I'm curious to think what you all thought the operation was going to be. Obviously, this isn't a face-to-face class, so we can't have that discussion, but think about it for a second if you haven't already, and I will tell you that the operation they're referring to is an abortion. And if you haven't thought of that, think about that now and whether it makes sense in the context of the story. I think that's, and I always have students who push back against this idea, well, it's never explicitly said in the story, so couldn't it be anything? And I guess it could be anything, but really it couldn't be anything. Not to be crass, but they're not talking about a boob job here, right? Because there's a very serious tone that comes along with this conversation that's happening in the story. And it seems to make sense, right? We have a couple, it's a man and a woman, and I think this fits the context of what's going on in the conversation and what's happening in the story. So that's a little bit of the spoiler, and maybe that will help the story make sense to you. If you read it through the first time and you're like, well, I don't understand why there's so much tension between these two people or what this operation is, and if you didn't realize, that's what we're talking about. And I guess, if you really feel like that's not what the operation is, you can bring that up in the discussion this week, but I feel pretty comfortable in reading the story that way. That's kind of the standard interpretation of the story. I don't know if Hemingway himself came out and acknowledged that. I can try to do some looking. But that's sort of, if you're trying to fill in the gap, that's the gap. The operation is an abortion. But they never really refer to it that way in the story, right? They're always circumventing it. On page 275, I know you wouldn't mind it, Jig. So we have the man speaking to Jig, the woman. It's not really anything. It's just to let the air in. And really a strange way of putting or of phrasing an abortion, right? Just to let the air in. And whenever I still don't know what to make of that phrase. It's almost, it's very ethereal. I don't know. I think of abortion as being, pretty heavy, a pretty big deal. And he's sort of, writing it off as no big thing. And later on at the bottom of that page, where is that? I don't worry about it because it's perfectly simple. Although in the time that Hemingway is writing this, I doubt that abortions were really all that simple. They weren't always legal, so if you were getting illegal ones, they were anything but simple, they were anything but safe. So just wanted to talk about the operation and what that is in the context of the story, so as we go through the rest of the story, the rest of the videos, these things will make sense to you. So with that said, we'll move on to a couple other topics.